Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about a passion of mine. Well, it used to be an old passion actually. It's boxing. And we're going to talk about the Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson fight. Was it a real fight or do we all get scammed? Now most of us that watch boxing watch Tyson all the time. Boxing used to be my favorite sport in the world before MMA came out. If anybody knows me, they know I'm the biggest MMA fan in the world. But before there was MMA, there was boxing. And boxing used to be my favorite sport before MMA. And my favorite fighter in the world was always Mike Tyson. I've never missed a Mike Tyson fight ever, and I wasn't going to miss this, even if it wasn't a real fight. The problem about this fight is they kind of lied to everybody, and people believed the hype. So first off, as soon as the fight got announced, everyone got all happy. Oh, Tyson's going to knock him out. Tyson's going to knock Roy Jones out. It's going to be crazy, which probably could happen. But then Andy Foster, the executive, what's his title? Andy Foster, the California Athletic Executive Director, said, hold up, guys. This is an exhibition fight. This isn't a real fight. He says they're going to be using 12-ounce gloves. They're going to be 2-minute rounds. Only 8 rounds. And he says, what else did he say about it? He goes, the main thing I got out of it, he says, this is about entertainment, not about competition. He says, if anybody tries to knock somebody out, if anybody gets cut, the fight is over. Now, most people heard that and was like, okay, so it's not even a real fight. Why would I want to get this fight? Why would I want to pay for this fight? It's over. Well, so Jones and Tyson realized they're not going to make any money off this because they've been exposed. So what do? They go on TV. Oh, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to knock Roy out. Roy's like, oh, I'm going for the knockout too. If Tyson's going to knock my head off, I'm knocking him out too. We all know that wasn't true. Well, we didn't all know that's true. Because during the fight, I said, well, this will be fun. I said things like, this is not going to be a real fight. It's going to be kind of, I'm anxious to see what this fight's going to look like. Everyone was like, oh, it's going to be a real fight. I heard Jones and I heard Tyson say, I don't care what the rules are, we're going to knock each other out. Really? We're going to knock each other out. Okay. So anyways, a couple things I want to talk about. First off, so I do think everybody got the wool pulled over their eyes by buying this fight because some people actually thought this was going to be a real fight. Like Tyson was going to go for the knockout. First off, if anybody followed Tyson in the 80s and 90s knows, what does Tyson do? Does he win fights by boxing? No. He wins every fight by knockout. He wins all his fights by going for the knockout. He tries to kill you in there. So if you have a fight where you say, Tyson, you can't knock somebody out, how is Tyson going to win? And then he's going against one of the best boxers of all time. And I said boxers. Not knockout first, boxers. That's like going in with a handicap. There's no way he could win that fight if the fights were ruled. If those were the real rules. So obviously I knew that wasn't going to be a real fight. Now if it was a real fight, judging, and I'm going to fast forward ahead here, but judging by what happened in a real fight, Tyson would have knocked Jones' head off in about the first round the way he was moving. I mean, he was moving his head like he always does, this little peekaboo movement. He was going for the body. So as soon as this fight started, well, actually, let's go to the weigh-ins first. So the weigh-ins, so everyone started getting excited because Tyson got all juiced up and started hitting the weights, got all showing all these videos of him jacked to the gills.
What do you have to be in order to be brave? You have to be afraid to be brave, but you control your fear. And you face.
So then everyone waits for the fight. Oh, it doesn't matter, A lot of people are naive about steroids. A lot of people think, oh yeah, 54-year-old gets more muscle just by working out. It's muscle memory. Yeah, all of a sudden they'll get the best shape of their life just by being natural. No HRT, no steroids, nothing. It's not true. When you can see. I'll show you a picture of him on the sauce, on steroids when he started fighting back. When he started getting back in shape. He was definitely on steroids. And he was definitely jacked. And you can compare that picture or video, whatever you saw him fighting, You saw his body in that, and then saw the body in the weigh-in. Now remember, he didn't have to cut any weight. These were heavyweights. There was no weight limit. So he didn't have to cut weight. He didn't have to like diet to get down to have a six-pack. He didn't have to do any of that. He came in his regular weight. He was all right. I mean, he looked great at 54, but he didn't look anything like those pictures. He looked like a guy getting off the juice so he wouldn't get caught for steroids.
The one, the only, Iron Mike Tyson!
And Jones, his body was really weird because he looked like he was one of those people that was an ectomorph who just could not gain weight. Like he always walked around with like an 8-pack in when we boxed. And I didn't think he could get fat. When he showed up on the stage, on the weigh-ins, I was like, Roy Jones has a dad bod? That's weird to me. Anyway, so Tyson still looked good. He just got off the sauce. And so he had a little belly, on him. He still had huge muscles like he always did from taking the roids, from lifting weights, all that stuff, like he always did. But I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not even about that. It's just about people don't be naive about stuff. When you saw those pictures, him jacked to the gills, him rocking a six-pack at 54, have more muscle than he did in his 20s. You can't build muscle at 54 years old. It's not possible. You can't without steroids or HRT or any of that stuff. And the commission said they're testing for that stuff. So of course they had to that's probably why they had to delay it, because remember the fight got delayed. The fight probably got delayed, so they realized somebody probably called and said, well, how long does this get out of your system? Oh, this many months? Okay, well, let's set the fight then. That's probably what really happened. But anyways, on to the fight. So first off, the fight card, pretty boring. Now the Jake Paul versus the dunk champion, Nate Robinson, now that was the best fight by far. That was a real fight. And Nate Robinson, I mean, I love Nate Robinson. 5'8", 5'9", dunk champion. I mean, little guy who can dunk. I mean, for people that knew me in high school, that's what I was always known. I was always known as the short white kid that could dunk. So any guy who could dunk under 6 foot, that was my guy. Like Spud Webb and him, basically, that's the only people that could dunk under 6 feet. So anyway, so I was kind of pumped to watch him fight. He came in, he was jacked. I was like, dang, he's still in good shape. He was coming out looking the part. Woo! That was all he did, he looked the part. But the funny, I mean, got Snoop Dogg commentating. I mean, Snoop Dogg don't know much about boxing or MMA. He, for people that don't know, he used to commentate some of the UFC fights, UFC Contender show, where they would go in there and try to fight, and people got mad at him because he was just being a moron. He didn't know anything about boxing. He didn't know anything about MMA, so he would say stupid stuff, and the MMA people were just so mad at him. They fired him because he had no idea what he was talking about, and he was talking about how this guy's a wuss, this guy is a punk and all this stuff, and the fighters really wanted to fight him, so they couldn't do it. Anyway, so this boxing thing happens, and if you're just in for comedic effect, he's hilarious. Like when Nate Robinson came in and he said, Nate's wearing basketball shoes to box, man. You can't be doing And sure enough, I mean, Paul just destroyed him. I mean, first off, the fight should have been over. When he landed on his head and he came up like this, I was hit in the back of the head. They showed the replay, he was not hit in the back of the head. That means you have a concussion. Fight over. Fight is over. Stop the fight. Instead, he comes up with a concussion, full concussion, 100%, fights another round, gets knocked out again, fight's over. I mean, that's just bad for you. You shouldn't be doing that. So anyways, so now on to the Tyson-Jones fight. So the fight starts, and already people are like, oh, this is going to be a real fight. People on Facebook are like, oh no, they're going to knock each other out. I know they are. Oh, it's going to be on, you know? So they come out. First off, they announced the referee's name. Keep in mind, this is during the coronavirus. He's wearing a mask because of coronavirus. His name is Ray Corona.
What?
Now the commission's picked this up. So right there I was like, is this even a real fight? Is this like WWE sponsored this or what's going on? Ray Corona? The referee during the coronavirus is named Ray Corona, and he's wearing a mask to fight the coronavirus? And of all the referees, they pick a guy named Ray Corona. I mean, right there I was like, this is a little weird. Okay, but anyways, the fight starts. First off, the first thing you notice is Jones is just, okay, they always ask, what do you lose first, speed or power? Well, we all know it's 100% speed. And Jones proved it. Jones would annihilate people with his jab, with his speed. And he just looked like probably 4 or 5 times slower than normal. I mean, of course he should be. I mean, he's in his 50s. I mean, that should be expected, but at the same time, you should know that. So right there, I was like, oh, if this was a real fight, Tyson probably would, if Tyson's in good shape, he'd probably win this fight. So Tyson comes out, he's got the peekaboo movement like he always does. He's jabbing to the body. You know, he's not going for the knockout, obviously. Anybody who watched Tyson fight knows he's got a patented knockout punch. He goes to the body, and then he goes uppercut. He goes to the body, and then he goes uppercut. And I'll show you a video of him doing this. This is like what he does. He was doing in this fight, he was going to the body, no uppercut. He might punch every once in a while, but you know, it wasn't a knockout punch. He wasn't putting all his effort into it. But man, but when it comes to what do you lose first, speed or power? Tyson showed it's definitely power is what you lose last, because he definitely still had the power. I mean, he looked good. He's probably not going to win against the top 10 heavyweights, but he could probably do pretty good in the heavyweight division right now. I mean, he's still got the speed. I mean, he's still got the power. I mean, he's still got the power, and he still has some speed. I mean, he was crazy fast. I mean, he's still fast. He's not as fast, of course, as he was in his 20s, but it wasn't a significantly drop off like Roy Jones. Roy Jones' speed was like that's all he had, and you noticed a big difference from when he came in. Tyson still looked quick, still looked really quick, but his power is what he's always known for, and he still has his power. So I think if that was a real fight, if they said, okay, we're going to do this fight again, boxing rules, knockouts, everything, I think Tyson would knock out Jones probably in 2 rounds. Especially Jones. And Jones, this is what I don't understand. So after the fight, okay, first off, the fight, you know, first off, the commissioner even says there's not going to be a winner, right? I thought everybody knew that, right? But then at the end, they go, we're going to announce a winner. Are you now, really? Because the commissioner said you're not going to announce a winner. So what do? It's a draw. It's a draw? That means no winner. That's exactly what everyone told people, but nobody believed them. So everything's right. So hold on. So nobody went for a knockout, which is what Andy Foster said. Tyson only went to the body for all the hard punches. I mean, he hit to the head sometimes, but he didn't go for the knockout ever. He was just, I mean, he hit him with a couple of good shots, but it wasn't like he was ever going for a knockout. He was hitting hard to the body. I mean, now Roy's ribs are going to be hurting for a long time, but there was definitely not him trying to knock anybody out. So that's exactly what happened. No knockout, and most of all, no winner announced, with exactly what they said. But people still didn't believe. So eventually, the fight happened, people believed it. So was it a good fight? Yeah, it was a great fight, actually. I liked it. I mean, it wasn't a real fight. I mean, and I knew that going in. I just felt bad for the people that actually believed that, oh, they're really going to try to fight. No, the only reason they didn't knock each other out is because they're in their 50s. Really? No. That's definitely not what it was. It was definitely not because they were in their 50s and they weren't trying to knock each other out. Oh, let me tell you something. First off, this is one thing that was really weird to me. Because not only was Jones known for his speed, but he was known for his conditioning. Now, he came in with a dad bod. I knew he was going to have a little bit of difference when it comes to stamina and stuff. But I mean, the first round, you watch the corner of the first round, Jones was like, you see Tyson. Tyson was just, it's like a normal fight. Tyson's 54. He's the older guy. Tyson hadn't fought in, I don't know how many years. What was it? 15 years, they said, or something like that. And Jones was just fighting a few years ago. He just retired. So if anybody should have been in better shape, better conditioning, better ready to have better boxing shape, especially with Jones. So that was surprising. So I mean, Jones has a long way to go. If he wanted to do a rematch, he definitely have to get in better shape. So after the fight, I heard the interview with Jones, and they said, "How long did you train for this fight?" Now I was expecting him to say, "Oh, I didn't train at all. I was just, I knew it was an exhibition." He said he trained for he put a 12-week camp in. He said he might have overtrained. Overtrained? Jones? What was he doing? I don't understand how he overtrained. First off, there's two types of conditioning. Or there's two types of being in shape. There's being in physical shape, which means you look good in clothes, and there's being in good cardio shape. A lot of people are very good at one. Like when I played basketball last year in my 40s for the very first time, I was in good physical shape. Cardio shape, I was in horrible shape. So bad that I used to play basketball, I used to play a full game, running, sprinting the entire game, and then afterwards, I'd want to go play again somewhere else, or play another game immediately. Last year when I played, keep in mind I haven't played in like 10 years, and I'm 43 years old. But when I played basketball, literally after 1 minute, I was, put me in. I was calling, I was like, hey, come on in, I'm dying over here. It was horrible. So there's a big difference between being in cardio shape and being in physical shape. But here's the problem. Roy saying he had 12, he trained for 12 weeks of boxing training, and he's that bad out of shape. Okay, either he's lying or he's just eating like horrible. Because first off, he didn't come in good physical shape like he was in. Because no matter what you eat, if you're doing boxing training is hours and hours of training. I mean, you have to be eating like 6,000-7,000 calories not to burn all those calories off. So if he really was doing all that training, then his diet was horrible. But if he's doing regular boxing training, he would have been lean. He would have been in a lot better shape. I wouldn't say he's in shape like he was in his 20s, but he should have been in shape like his last fight when he was in his 50s, or I think it was his 50s or late 40s. But yeah, that was the most surprising part of how out of shape he was, like cardio shape. I mean, physical shape, we all knew that from the weigh-ins. When it comes to physical shape, Tyson wins that. But Tyson also won the cardio shape. If anybody who watched Tyson fight like me, Tyson's huge downfall was he came at you like a pit bull for 2 rounds, but he had no cardio. He was all power. He was going to knock you out in 2 rounds, maybe 5 at the most. And if he hadn't knocked you out in 5 rounds, fight's over. You could easily win that fight again. If you're not scared of Tyson, if you're not intimidated by Tyson, you're going to win against Tyson. Because that's all he had. He came out with 5 rounds. I mean, he doesn't even train. He says he always trained for 10 to 12 rounds. I don't think he ever did, because if you watch him after the 5th round, I mean, I'm sure power takes a lot out of you, but I mean, he was exhausted by the 5th round of almost all his fights, and that was in his prime condition. I watched this fight. He was barely breathing in the corner. I mean, he was doing good. I mean, 54, that's amazing. So anyways, I hope you guys like this new type of video. I just wanted to break down the Tyson Jones fight, see what you guys think about it. Leave some comments down here. Let me know what your opinion is. If you like this type of video, if you like me doing breakdowns of fights, I'm a huge MMA fan. Every once in a while I'll watch a boxing fight, not very much. Last boxing fight I watched this was obviously Conor McGregor versus Tyson, because it involved MMA fighter. But I'll watch any Tyson fight. So let me know in the comments if you like this. Give it a thumbs up, give me a comment, and thanks a lot. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button to get notifications when I make a new video. Thank you for watching my video. This is Scott Saka reminding you to never stop improving yourself in everything you do.